The stars were cold and empty. They had been cold and empty for 300 years. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the window of her ship and looked out into the darkness. The vessel was called the Remembrance. It was an old ship. The metal walls had rust in some places. The engines made strange sounds when they started. But it flew. It still flew. And that was enough. Sarah was 32 years old. She had black hair that she kept short, and dark eyes that had seen too much sadness. She wore a uniform that was patched in many places. On her chest, she wore a small medal. It showed Earth, a planet she had never seen with her own eyes. Her grandmother had given her that medal before she died. Her grandmother had also given her an old compass. It was a simple thing made of brass and glass. It had belonged to the Earth Navy, long ago, when humanity had ships that could make whole fleets run away in fear. Those days were gone now. 300 years ago, Earth went silent. The Great War against the hegemony had destroyed almost everything. The alien races had come together to crush humanity. They burned the colonies. They scattered the fleets. And then, somehow, a barrier of energy appeared around Earth. No one could go in. No one could come out. The planet disappeared behind a wall of light, and humanity was left broken and alone. The aliens divided human space among themselves. The Velkari Dominion took the largest share. They were tall creatures, with gray skin and 4 arms. They looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. The Crystalline Accord and the Thex Confederacy took the rest. They stripped the abandoned stations. They took the technology. They laughed at the species that had dared to challenge them. Now, humans survived as refugees. They lived on the edges of alien space. They worked as scavengers and mercenaries. They were tolerated but never respected. The galaxy had moved on, and humanity was just a sad memory. Sarah had grown up hearing stories about Earth. Her grandmother would tell her about blue oceans and green forests. She would talk about cities that touched the clouds and ships that filled the sky. Sarah loved those stories, but they also made her heart hurt. She would never see those things. Earth was gone, far away, in a hidden base inside an asteroid. Admiral Kira Voss sat alone in her office. She was 63 years old. Her hair was gray, and her face had many lines, but her eyes were still sharp, still strong. She had been fighting for humanity since she was young. She had watched friends die. She had watched hope fade. But she kept fighting because someone had to. Admiral Voss commanded what was left of the human fleet. It was not much. 17 ships, most of them old and damaged. They hid in the dark spaces between stars, moving from place to place so the aliens would not find them. They protected human refugees when they could. They fought back when they had to. But they were losing. Slowly losing. And everyone knew it. The Admiral's mother had told her stories about Earth too. Stories about great dreadnoughts that could destroy moons. Stories about admirals who made the galaxy shake with fear. Now those stories felt like dreams. Like fairy tales for children. Sometimes the Admiral wondered if Earth was even real anymore. Maybe it had died behind that barrier. Maybe there was nothing left but dust and bones. On this night, something changed. Captain Chen was doing a routine check of her ship's sensors when she saw something strange. There was an energy reading coming from Sol System. From the space around Earth. It was faint, just a tiny flicker in the data. But it was there. Sarah felt her heart beat faster. She looked at the reading again and again. It was real. Something was happening near Earth. She sent a message to Admiral Voss right away. The Admiral's face appeared on her screen, looking tired and annoyed. "What is it, Captain?" the Admiral asked. "I found something," Sarah said. "An energy reading from Sol System. The barrier around Earth. I think it might be changing." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "It's sensor ghosts," she said. "Our equipment is old. It sees things that are not there. But Admiral, Captain Chen, I have looked at readings like this 100 times. Every few years, someone thinks they see something near Earth. It is always nothing. The barrier has been there for 3 centuries. It will be there for 3 more. Do not waste your time on false hopes. The screen went dark. The Admiral had ended the call. Sarah stood alone on her bridge. She looked at her grandmother's compass in her hand. The needle pointed at nothing now. It was made to point at Earth's magnetic north, but Earth was so far away that it could not feel the pull anymore. But Sarah felt something. Deep in her chest, she felt a strange pull. It was like a heartbeat that was not her own. It was like a voice calling to her from very far away. She made a decision. She would go to Earth. She would go alone if she had to. She would find out what was happening. Even if everyone told her she was foolish, Sarah gathered a small crew. Just 5 people who trusted her. She took a small scout ship from the fleet's supplies. It was fast, but had weak weapons. It would have to be enough. As she prepared to leave, she thought about the Admiral's words. False hopes. Maybe Voss was right. Maybe Sarah was chasing a dream that would turn to dust. But what if she was wrong? What if something really was happening? What if Earth was still alive? Sarah entered the coordinates for Sol System. Her hands were shaking, but her heart was steady. Computer, she said, take us home. The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. The stars stretched into lines of light, and Captain Sarah Chen flew toward a planet she had never seen, toward a home she had never known, toward a future that no one could imagine. Behind her, Admiral Voss sat in her office and looked at the same energy reading on her own screen. She had told Sarah it was nothing, but alone in the dark, the old Admiral allowed herself one small moment of hope. Please, she whispered to no one. Please let it be real. The long silence was about to end. The journey to Earth was dangerous. Captain Sarah Chen knew this before she started. The space between her and Sol System belonged to the Velkari Dominion now. Humans were not welcome there. Humans who traveled alone were often captured. Some became slaves. Some became worse. Sarah flew carefully. She kept her ship hidden in the shadows of asteroids and the tails of comets. She moved slowly when she needed to be quiet. She moved fast when she needed to run. 3 times, she met Velkari patrol ships. The first time, she hid behind a dead moon and waited for 6 hours until they passed. Her crew did not speak. They barely breathed. The alien ships flew so close that Sarah could see the lights on their hulls. The second time, she could not hide. 2 Velkari fighters found her and gave chase. They were faster than her ship. They were closing in. Sarah remembered what her grandmother had taught her. Humans do not fight fair, the old woman had said. We fight to win. Sarah flew her ship straight toward an asteroid field. The rocks were thick and deadly. No smart pilot would follow her there. But Sarah was not trying to be smart. She was trying to survive. She flew between the spinning rocks. Her ship scraped against stone. Alarms screamed. But she kept going. Behind her, 1 Velkari fighter crashed into an asteroid and exploded. The other one turned back. They were not willing to die for 1 small human ship. Sarah's crew cheered. Sarah did not cheer. She was too busy trying to keep the damaged ship flying. The 3rd time was the worst. A Velkari cruiser spotted her near the edge of Sol System. It was a big ship with many guns. There was no hiding, no running, no clever tricks. Sarah prepared to die. She thought about her grandmother. She thought about Earth. She thought about all the things she would never see. Then something strange happened. The Velkari cruiser stopped. Its guns went quiet. It turned around and flew away. Very fast. Like it was scared of something. Sarah did not understand. She looked at her sensors. There was nothing behind her that could scare a warship. There was only empty space, and far ahead, the glowing barrier around Earth. Then, she looked more closely at the barrier. It was flickering. The wall of energy that had stood for 300 years was starting to weaken. and it was weakening in one specific spot, right in front of her ship. Sarah flew toward the barrier. Her crew told her to stop, to wait, to think, but Sarah could not stop. The pull in her chest was stronger now. It was calling her forward. When she reached the barrier, it opened for her. The energy parted like a curtain, creating a path just wide enough for her small ship. It was like the barrier knew she was coming. It was like it had been waiting for her. Sarah flew through. Behind her, the barrier closed again. She was inside. She was in Sol System. She was near Earth, and what she saw made her cry. Earth was there. It was blue and green and beautiful, just like her grandmother had described. White clouds moved across its surface. The oceans sparkled in the sunlight. It was the most wonderful thing Sarah had ever seen, but that was not what made her cry. Around the planet, in great rings that stretched across the sky, there were ships, thousands and thousands of ships. Dreadnoughts bigger than anything she had ever imagined, carriers that could hold entire fleets inside them. Fighters, and destroyers, and cruisers, all waiting in perfect lines. They were dark. Their engines were off. But they were there. Humanity had not died. Humanity had been building. Sarah landed her ship on one of the great orbital stations. The doors opened for her automatically. Lights turned on as she walked through the halls. Everything was clean and perfect, maintained by machines that had worked without rest for 3 centuries. She found a command center in the heart of the station. When she entered, a hologram appeared. It showed a woman in an admiral's uniform. The woman looked like Sarah. She had the same eyes, the same face, the same way of standing. "Hello, granddaughter," the hologram said. "I am Admiral Chen. If you are seeing this message, then the barrier has recognized your blood and let you through." Sarah could not speak. This was her ancestor. This was the woman who had built all of this. The hologram continued. "When the war ended, we knew humanity had lost. The aliens wanted to destroy us completely. So we hid. We raised the barrier to protect Earth. And then, we built." The hologram gestured at the ships outside the window. The silent engines, we called them. Automated factories that would work in secret, creating a fleet greater than anything the galaxy has ever seen. We could not win the war in our time, but we could prepare our children to win it in theirs. Sarah finally found her voice. "How do I wake them?" The hologram smiled. It was a sad smile, full of love for descendants she would never meet. "The silent engines need 2 keys to awaken," the hologram said. "The first is the blood of our family. You have that. The second is the command codes of a serving admiral. Find the admiral of our scattered people. Bring her here. Together, you will wake the fleet." The hologram began to fade. "We built this for you," Admiral Chen said. "We built this so humanity would never kneel again. Wake the fleet, granddaughter. Show them what we became in the dark." The hologram disappeared. Sarah stood alone in the command center, surrounded by silent machines and sleeping ships. She thought about Admiral Voss, back at the asteroid base. The old admiral, who had lost hope. The old admiral, who thought Earth was dead. Sarah smiled. It was the first real smile she had felt in years. "Computer," she said, "open a channel to the human fleet. Maximum encryption. Tell Admiral Voss that Captain Chen is calling from Earth. Tell her to come home." She looked out the window at the sleeping giants around her. "Tell her that humanity is about to wake up." Admiral Kira Voss watched the message 3 times. She watched Sarah Chen standing in the command center of an orbital station. She watched the ships floating in the background. Hundreds of them visible through the window. She listened to every word. Then she sat down heavily in her chair and wept. Her crew had never seen her cry. Admiral Voss was made of iron and stone. She gave orders. She made hard choices. She buried her feelings deep inside, where no one could see them. But now, alone in her office, she let the tears fall. Earth was alive. The fleet existed. Everything her mother had told her. Everything she had dreamed about as a child. It was all real. For one long moment, she was not an admiral anymore. She was just a tired old woman who had finally found hope. Then she dried her tears and became the admiral again. Voss called her captains together. She told them what Sarah had found. She told them about the silent engines and the sleeping fleet. She told them that she needed to go to Earth herself, to give the command codes that would wake the ships. The journey will be dangerous, she said. The Velkari control that space. They will try to stop us. Then we will fight them, said one of her captains. We may all die, Voss said. Then we will die flying toward home, the captain replied. That is better than dying out here in the cold dark. The admiral smiled. Even after 300 years of defeat, humans still had fire in their hearts. They made a plan. The admiral would travel on her flagship, the Final Defiance. It was the largest ship in their small fleet. But it was still old and weak compared to Velkari warships. 5 other ships would come as escorts. The rest would stay behind to protect the refugees. Captain Chen met them at the edge of Sol System. She flew out through the barrier in her scout ship. The barrier let her pass. Just like before. Admiral, Sarah said over the communication channel. I will guide you in. Stay close to me. I am glad you did not listen to my orders, Captain, the admiral replied. I was wrong. You were careful, Sarah said. That is not the same as wrong. They flew together toward Earth. The admiral could see the barrier ahead, glowing softly in the darkness. Behind that barrier was everything humanity had lost and everything they might become. They were halfway there when the Velkari found them. The alien ships came out of faster-than-light travel all around them. 12 warships, each one bigger and stronger than anything the humans had. They had been waiting. The Velkari had noticed the strange energy readings too. They had noticed the human fleet moving, and they had come to stop whatever was happening. The Velkari commander opened a channel. He was a tall, gray creature with 4 arms and cold black eyes. Human vessels, you are in Velkari space. You will surrender immediately. Your admiral will come aboard my ship for questioning. If you refuse, we will destroy you. Admiral Voss looked at the enemy fleet on her screen. She looked at her own small ships, already damaged from the long journey. She looked at the barrier. So close, but still too far. All ships, she said to her fleet. Protect Captain Chen. Get her to the barrier. She is the only one who matters now. Admiral, no, Sarah said. We can all make it. We cannot, Voss said. Her voice was calm and steady. But you can. Go, Captain. Wake the fleet. Finish what we started. The battle began. The human ships fought with everything they had. They were outgunned and outnumbered, but they fought anyway. They drew the Velkari fire away from Sarah's scout ship. They put themselves between the aliens and their captain. One by one, the escort ships fell. Their engines exploded. Their hulls broke apart. Their crews died in the cold vacuum of space. The Final Defiance took hit after hit. Fires burned on every deck. The hull was cracked in a dozen places. Admiral Voss stood on her bridge, bleeding from a wound on her head, and kept giving orders. Keep fighting, she said. Keep them busy. Sarah's ship was almost at the barrier. She could see it opening for her, creating a path. But she could also see the Final Defiance dying. She could see Admiral Voss about to make a final sacrifice. The admiral aimed her broken ship at the Velkari command vessel. She was going to ram it. She was going to die, taking the enemy commander with her. No, Sarah whispered. Not like this. She made a choice. Instead of flying through the barrier, she turned her ship around. She flew back toward the battle. Her crew shouted at her to stop, but she did not listen. Sarah opened a channel. Not to the admiral, not to the Velkari. She broadcast on all frequencies. Everwell, aimed at the barrier and the sleeping fleet behind it. "Engines of Earth, hear me," she said. Her voice was strong and clear. "I am Captain Sarah Chen, blood of Admiral Chen, keeper of the first key. I call upon the fleet of humanity. I call upon the ships that waited in the dark. Authorization code. Humanity endures. For one terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, behind the barrier, lights began to turn on. One ship. Then 10. Then 100. Then 1,000. The silent engines were waking up. Admiral Voss stopped her ship. She stared at the barrier in disbelief. Through the wall of energy, she could see dreadnoughts coming to life. She could see engines glowing. She could see weapons charging. The Valkyrie commander saw it too. His cold black eyes went wide with fear. "What is this?" he demanded. "What have you done?" Sarah flew her ship next to the final Defiance. She looked at Admiral Voss through the viewport. The old admiral was crying again. But this time, they were tears of joy. "Admiral," Sarah said, "I believe the fleet needs your command codes now." Voss laughed. It was a wild, happy laugh that no one had ever heard from her before. "Authorization code," she said into the communication system. "Admiral Kira Voss, keeper of the second key. Command code. Earth remembers." The barrier fell. 10,000 warships flew out of Sol system, their engines roaring with power that had waited 3 centuries to be unleashed. The galaxy was about to remember why it had once feared humanity. The Valkyrie commander had lived for 200 years. He had fought in many battles. And, after, he had destroyed enemy fleets and conquered entire star systems. He had never known fear. He knew it now. The ships coming out of Sol system were like nothing he had ever seen. They were massive, their hulls dark and gleaming with metals that did not exist in any database. Their weapons glowed with energy that made his sensors scream warnings. Each dreadnought was bigger than his entire fleet combined, and there were thousands of them. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." Captain Sarah Chen watched the fleet emerge from behind the fallen barrier. She was crying, but she was also smiling. Her grandmother's compass was warm in her hand. And for the first time in her life, the needle was pointing at something. It was pointing at Earth. On the damaged bridge of the final Defiance, Admiral Voss stood up straight despite her wounds. Blood ran down her face, but her eyes were bright and fierce. Around her, the surviving members of her crew stared at the screens in shock and wonder. "Admiral," one of them said, "the awakened fleet is requesting command instructions." Voss looked at Sarah through the viewport. The young captain nodded. "Captain Chen," Voss said over the communication channel, "you found them. You woke them. You should command them." "No, Admiral," Sarah replied. "You have been leading our people through the darkness for 40 years. You should be the one to lead us into the light." Voss was quiet for a moment. Then she straightened her torn uniform and raised her chin. "Connect me to the fleet," she ordered. The communication officer worked quickly. In moments, the Admiral's voice was being heard by every ship in the awakened armada. "Ships of Earth," she said. "I am Admiral Kira Voss. For 300 years, humanity has survived in the shadows. We have been scattered and broken. We have been mocked and enslaved. The galaxy believed we were finished." She paused and looked at the Valkyrie fleet on her screen. The alien ships had stopped moving. They were frozen, waiting to see what would happen next. "They were wrong," Voss continued. "We did not die. We waited. We prepared. And now, we rise. Today we show the galaxy that humanity still stands. Today, we take back our home. Today, we remember who we are." The awakened fleet answered with a roar of engine power that echoed across space. One of the dreadnoughts moved forward. It was the largest ship in the fleet, painted black with silver lines. Its name was written on the hull in letters that glowed like fire. Resurrection. A shuttle launched from the Resurrection and flew to the final Defiance. It carried medical supplies and a fresh uniform. It also carried an invitation. "Admiral Voss," the message said. "The flagship awaits its commander." Sarah helped the admiral onto the shuttle. Voss was badly wounded, but she refused to lie down. She sat up straight, watching Earth grow larger through the window. "It really is blue," she whispered. "My mother always said it was blue." "It is beautiful," Sarah agreed. The shuttle docked with the Resurrection. Medical teams rushed to help the admiral, but she pushed them aside. She would get treatment later. First, she had a battle to finish. The bridge of the Resurrection was magnificent. It was large and bright, with screens showing every part of the battlefield. The crew stations were empty, manned by automated systems that had waited 3 centuries for human hands to take over. Voss took the captain's chair. Sarah stood beside her. "The Valkyrie commander is hailing us," an automated voice reported. "Put him through," Voss said. The gray face of the Valkyrie commander appeared on the main screen. His 4 hands were trembling. His black eyes were full of fear. "Human vessels," he said, trying to sound commanding. You will stand down immediately. The Valkyrie Dominion demands." "The Valkyrie Dominion," Admiral Voss interrupted, "has spent 300 years believing it was the master of this region of space. It has enslaved our children. It has mocked our memory. It has built its power on the bones of our ancestors." She stood up from her chair and walked toward the screen. "You demanded our surrender. Here is my answer. For every human you enslaved, you will pay. For every colony you burned, you will pay. For every time you laughed at our weakness, you will pay." The Valkyrie commander's face went pale gray. "We can negotiate. We are done negotiating," Voss said. "We are done running. We are done being afraid." She turned to Sarah. "Captain Chen, take command of the forward fleet. Destroy them." Sarah moved to a command station. Her hands were steady as she entered the orders. "All dreadnoughts," she said. "Weapons free." The battle lasted 11 minutes. The Valkyrie tried to fight. They launched missiles and fired beam weapons. Their attacks hit the human dreadnoughts and did nothing. The ancient armor held. The shields did not even flicker. Then the human fleet fired back. The weapons of the awakened fleet were beyond anything the galaxy had seen for 300 years. They were weapons designed by desperate scientists who knew that one day their children would need to defend themselves. They were weapons built to end wars quickly. Valkyrie ships exploded one after another. Their shields shattered. Their hulls melted. Their crews died before they could even scream. The Valkyrie commander tried to escape. His ship turned to run. Sarah tracked it with the targeting systems. "Admiral?" she asked. Voss looked at the fleeing ship on the screen. She thought about all the years of hiding. She thought about all the friends she had lost. She thought about her mother, who had died dreaming of a home she would never see. "No survivors," she said. "Let them be a message to the rest." Sarah fired. The Valkyrie command ship disappeared in a ball of light. When it was over, the space around Sol system was filled with debris. 12 Valkyrie warships had become dust and memory. Not a single human ship had been scratched. Sarah looked at the battlefield. She felt no joy in the destruction, but she felt something else. She felt free. "Admiral," she said quietly. Voss nodded. She was very tired now. Her wounds were catching up with her, but she did not rest yet. "Send a message," she said. "Send it to every corner of the galaxy. Let everyone know what happened here today. Let them know that Earth is no longer silent." The message went out at the speed of light. It carried news that would shake every civilization in known space. Humanity had returned, and they had brought vengeance with them. The news traveled fast. Faster than light, faster than fear, faster than hope. Within days, every corner of the galaxy knew what had happened at Sol System. The Valkyrie Dominion was in chaos. 12 of their best warships had been destroyed in minutes. Their crews were dead. Their commander was dead. and the species they had laughed at for 300 years was suddenly the most powerful force in known space. The Dominion's government fell apart. Different factions blamed each other for the disaster. Some wanted to attack Earth immediately, before the humans could grow stronger. And in 2.8, others wanted to surrender and beg for mercy. They argued and fought among themselves. And while they argued, humanity grew stronger every hour. The Crystalline Accord sent diplomats within a week. They arrived at the edge of Sol System in ships covered with white flags. They brought gifts and apologies. They spoke of peace and friendship. Admiral Voss met them from the Bridge of the Resurrection. She was still recovering from her wounds, but she refused to show weakness. "Your species took our colonies in the Outer Rim," she told the crystal beings. "You used human workers in your mines until they died. You treated us like animals." The diplomats lowered their shimmering heads. "We were wrong," they said. "We see that now." "Cruz, you did not see it before because you believed we were weak," Voss replied. "Now you see it, because you are afraid." The diplomats did not deny this. "We will discuss peace," the admiral said finally. "But first, you will return our people. Every human in your space will be freed. Every human world will be given back. This is not negotiation. This is what will happen." The Crystalline Accord agreed to everything. The Thex Confederacy was smarter. They had always treated humans a little better than the other powers, not out of kindness, but out of caution. The Thex were a careful species. They remembered the old wars. They remembered what human dreadnoughts could do. When humanity returned, the Thex sent messages of congratulations. They offered trade agreements and military alliances. They pretended they had always respected humanity. Captain Sarah Chen handled the Thex negotiations. She sat across from their ambassadors and smiled politely. "You were not our enemies," she said, "but you were not our friends either. You watched our people suffer and did nothing." "We could not fight the Velkari alone," the Thex ambassador said. "No," Sarah agreed. "You could not. But now you do not have to. Humanity will keep the peace in this region of space. You may trade with us and live beside us, but you will never again stand by while innocent people suffer. If you do, we will remember." The Thex accepted the terms. 6 months after the awakening, Admiral Voss stood on the surface of Earth for the first time. She walked on grass and felt soil under her feet. She breathed air that smelled of flowers and rain. She looked up at a blue sky with white clouds, and she wept. Sarah stood beside her. The young captain had never seen Earth either. They were both visitors to their own home. "My mother dreamed of this," Voss said quietly. "She died still dreaming. She would be proud," Sarah said. "You brought us home." Voss shook her head. "We brought us home. You and me. Together. I would have given up if not for you, Captain. I would have died in the darkness, never knowing what waited here." Sarah looked at her grandmother's compass. The needle pointed steadily north. It was working again. "After 300 years. What do we do now?" she asked. Voss looked at the sky. Ships were moving up there, carrying human refugees from all across the galaxy. People were coming home. After 3 centuries, humanity was becoming whole again. "Now we build," Voss said. "We build colonies and cities and schools. We build a future worthy of the people who prepared this for us." She turned to Sarah. "I want to promote you to Admiral." Sarah was surprised. "I am just a captain. I found Earth by luck as much as anything else." "You found Earth because you believed it was there when no one else did," Voss corrected. "That is not luck. That is faith. And faith is what we need most right now." Sarah thought about it for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "Not yet," she said. "I am not ready to be an admiral. There is still too much of the galaxy I have not seen. Too many human communities that need to know the fleet exists. Let me be your captain for a while longer. Let me bring our people home." Voss smiled. It was a warm smile, the kind she had not shown anyone in many years. "Then go, Captain Chen. Find our scattered children. Tell them the war is over. Tell them they have a home." 1 year after the awakening, the Galactic Council met to discuss the new reality. Representatives from every major species gathered in a great station in neutral space. They had gathered many times before, to divide territory and make agreements. Humanity had never been invited. Humanity had been considered irrelevant. This time, humanity had the biggest seat at the table. Admiral Voss attended as Earth's representative. Captain Chen stood at her side, wearing a new uniform with medals on her chest. A Valkyrie delegate spoke first. His species had finally found a new government, one that wanted peace instead of war. "We must discuss the human expansion," he said nervously. "Earth has claimed large sections of space. Some of those sections contain our people." Voss raised an eyebrow. "We have claimed the space that belonged to humanity before the war. The space you took from us when you thought we were defeated. But that was 300 years ago," another delegate said. "The borders have changed. The galaxy has moved on." "The galaxy moved on because it believed we were dead," Voss replied. "We were not dead. We were waiting, and now we have returned to what was always ours." The Valkyrie delegate leaned forward. "How can you justify such power? How did humanity build such a fleet in secret? It is not natural. It is frightening." Voss looked at him with cold eyes. "You want to know how we did it? We did it because you gave us no choice. We did it because for 300 years, your species hunted us, enslaved us, laughed at us. We built in the darkness, because the darkness was all you left us." She stood up and looked around the room at all the alien faces. "You never understood us," she said. "You saw our silence and thought we were dead. But silence is not weakness. Patience is not surrender. Humanity does not die. We endure. We adapt. We build. And when we finally rise, the galaxy remembers why it once feared us." The room was quiet. No one had anything to say. Captain Chen stepped forward. Her voice was softer than the Admiral's, but just as strong. "We do not want war," she said. "We have had enough of war. We want peace. We want to trade and explore and build together. The fleet exists to protect our people, not to conquer yours." She looked at the Valkyrie delegate. "But understand this. We will never be weak again. We will never be victims again. If any species threatens humanity, they will face the full power of the silent engines. This is not a threat. It is a promise." The delegates looked at each other. They looked at the human fleet visible through the station's windows. They made their choice. One by one, they agreed to the new peace. Later that night, Sarah and Voss stood alone on the observation deck. Earth was visible in the distance, a small blue dot among the stars. "We did it," Sarah said quietly. "We actually did it. Our ancestors did it," Voss replied. "They built the fleet. They kept the dream alive. We just woke it up," Sarah smiled. "Then let us make sure their sacrifice meant something. Let us build a future they would be proud of." Voss nodded. "That is all any of us can do. Build something better for those who come after." She put her hand on Sarah's shoulder. "The galaxy will be watching us now," she said. "Every species will want to know what humanity does next. Let us show them something good." Sarah looked at Earth, the home she had found, the home she had given back to her people. "We will," she said. The silent engines had awoken. Humanity had risen again. And in the heart of a galaxy that had once written them off as dead, the children of Earth began to build a new future. This time, no one would forget them.